Not so long ago, we all entered an era of 4K TVs, allowing us to view content that contains 4 times more pixels than the standard 1080p. And although this transition happened less than 10 years ago, we started seeing 8K TVs enter the market recently. Of course, the cameras are not lagging behind either. Now you can easily find cameras going as high as 12K in resolution. But where is the limit? When does this whole resolution race become pointless? Or maybe even 8K is an unnecessary overkill? Let's find out. Don't know about you, but I find this whole resolution thing a bit confusing. For example, I've got a standard TV right here which has got resolution of 1080p. 1080p means that there are 1080 pixels that lie vertically and also 1920 pixels that lie horizontally. So the name comes from the pixels that lie vertically. Okay, but I've got a 4K monitor over here, and I guess for marketing reasons they decided to name the resolutions using the number of horizontal pixels now. Fine, it's got 3840 pixels that lie horizontally and 2160 pixels that lie vertically. It's all pretty straightforward up to this point. But when it comes to a phone, a different term is being used to describe the quality of the screen. It's called PPI, pixels per inch. But why? You see, resolution remains the same regardless of the dimensions of the screen. For example, a 100-inch TV and a 24-inch monitor may both have 4K resolution, but the size of pixels will be different. And of course, the smaller the pixels, the sharper the image. So, because we tend to look at phones from a much closer distance compared to a TV, the PPI parameter is much more important than simply resolution. Okay, but can you even see the difference between 1080 and 4K? Of course you can, but it depends. Look at this chart. It shows the maximum distance at which you will be able to see the difference between 4K and 1080p depending on the size of a TV, provided you have a normal 20/20 vision, of course. But unfortunately, there are some additional factors that are going to affect image quality. We have already talked about pixel sizes, but what if you have a 4K TV, but the content you want to watch was originally filmed in 1080p? Well, the TV is going to upscale that image, which, provided it goes without a problem, is going to look slightly nicer than standard 1080p, a bit sharper. When it comes to consuming content in 1080p or 4K, I hope it became a little bit less confusing. But what about filming in 4K? My Blackmagic, for example, is able to film in 6K. Is there any benefit in doing so? Shooting in 4K gives an additional flexibility in post. Due to higher number of pixels, it gives a lot of information to work with when it comes to color grading. But sadly, not by a lot. For example, my Canon 1DX Mark II is able to shoot 4K, but only in 8-bit. Not resolution, but bit depth is the most important factor when it comes to color grading potential. For example, 8-bit means that each red, green and blue color channels has 256 possible values, which in total gives 16.5 million colors to work with. 10-bit will increase that number to over a billion, while 12-bit gives a whopping 68 billion possible colors. Now, is there a point in shooting 6K or even 8K when planning on exporting in 4K? The main advantage is the ability to resize and add motion on post without losing quality. But when we shoot in resolution higher than 4K, we enter a world of diminishing returns. The file sizes, the amount of information for a PC to work with is huge, while it becomes really difficult to see any difference at all. With that being said, I still shoot in 6K using this camera, because this is the only resolution that allows me to use full sensor and shoot in RAW at the same time. I just choose high compression ratio in order to reduce file sizes. By the way, is compression ratio going to affect image quality? Compression on modern cameras is a highly complicated process. The basic principle, though, is easy to understand. Let's take as an example a talking head video. The background on a video like this is not going to change drastically from one shot to another. That's why instead of taking a picture of the same background every time, the compression algorithm is going to picture it once and then reference it for the next shot. The image taken is a reference frame which is going to be updated periodically. Also, some algorithms, depending on a codec, are going to smoosh similar pixels in order to reduce the amount of data. So long story short, for stationary shots the high compression is not a big deal, but for quick moving ones it's going to lead to some quality loss. It's not becoming easier to understand, is it? The main takeaway is 4K is cool, 8K is unnecessary, enjoy the production and consumption of your content, and be happy. See ya!